All right, show of hands if you stayed up until midnight waiting for Blake Lively to drop this freaking amendment. Okay, am I the only person with their hands raised? Are you guys just here to plagiarize because you know I went through every line like a complete psycho? That's perfectly fine. I just want you guys to know rather, that if you're here because you think there's some bombshell in here, as her lawyers were alluding to, oh, wait until everybody sees everything, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because if clickbait was an amendment, this is it. Okay, I cannot believe it. And there's so much more going on here. Now we really see the target of everything, I think, really the linchpin for her lawsuit, the person that she went after. We have to discuss Isabella Ferrer. All that coming up right now on Candace. Okay, before we get to the clickbait amendment, I just want to say, I want to shout us out for just being the best sleuths ever. Because yesterday we covered this, awaiting, anticipating this amendment to drop, and we spoke about their SNL appearance. And I just kind of gave my feedback, that my professional opinion, that it was Ryan who had called this shot, that it was very obvious now that we know his brand of narcissism. I feel like we all deserve like PhDs in psychology by the end of this. And since we were able to connect the way his teacher said that he believes he can act his way out of anything and make people fall in love with him, I said yesterday on the show, 100% Ryan was the one who put this line in here. Not SNL, not Tina Fey, not Blake Lively, but Ryan. And sure enough, some amazing mommy sleuth sends me a link yesterday, which you guys don't forget, you can always email me tips, info@CandaceOwens.com. And she says, check out this broadcast on an Australian radio show called Fifi, Fev, and Nick for Breakfast, literally an Australian, a Melbourne, Australia station, where they had a guy who's been with SNL for like 25 years. His name is Cue Card Wally. He literally holds the cue cards for SNL. And he was just opening up with them in a friendly conversation about how exciting hosting that 50th anniversary was. And at the very end of the conversation, Cue Card Wally gets asked about that line. Ryan Reynolds jumping up and making a joke about the Justin Baldoni situation. And take a listen to what Cue Card Wally had to say.
Now, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively have been in the news a lot, and Ryan Reynolds, we want to know, was that an improv or was it scripted, his little piece he did?
That was actually, he had a different line in rehearsal, and he pitched that to replace it. So that was his idea to do it.
It was Ryan's idea. I just don't know. I feel like we deserve something. We deserve an award for just sniffing that out. Like, he is a true thoroughbred narcissist. Like, he truly believes that just give me a line, let me get in front of the audience, people will remember how much they love me. And by the way, tons of publications, we're not going to get into them at this moment because we've already covered that SNL appearance, saying that many of the people in the room were uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable. I guess they were aware of the hypocrisy of SNL kind of standing on this ground of no bullies for years, and then suddenly hosting Blake and Ryan when people could read their text messages bullying Justin Baldoni. It didn't serve them to have them there. And of course, it would have been him that insisted upon walking on the red carpet and smiling and trying to look happy. And I will say, Blake Lively looked uncomfortable. There were various moments where I was like, she does not look like she is comfortable. She is very aware that the public does not like her right now. But in case you felt even a modicum of sadness for her, you can just go ahead and wipe it away, because when we get further into this complaint, you're going to realize that she's not being held captive by Ryan Reynolds, okay? They're both narcissists, and the way that she executed her plan against Justin Baldoni by using the cast of characters around Justin Baldoni, like Isabella Ferrer and Liz Plank. She was involved. We're going to get to that. But first, let's go through this nothing burger of an amendment. I'll take you through the relevant parts. The first thing is how absolutely embarrassed I was as a female to read it, okay? They really are the strategy here for her lawyers, while Brian Friedman is delivering point after point after point, followed by evidence with no emotion in the documents. They're just girl bossing it. They're just like, wear your florals. We're going to file an amendment. It's going to be cute. We're going to give you so much emotion. It's going to feel good. Forget the facts. How do you feel? Truly, that's what it is. It is a display of like a hyper stereotype of what it means to be a woman. That's how I felt reading this. I was like, give me teeth. Give me the facts. I don't care about the feelings. It just starts with straight feelings, okay? In the introduction, it opens up by being like, the way that Justin Baldoni has represented himself in the past, really, we're just going to set the stage as if they're writing a script and they're not filing a document in court. This is actually the language from the introduction. It reads this. In public, Mr. Baldoni gave the appearance of taking responsibility for the fact that he had, quote, unconsciously been hurting and silencing women in his life and implored men to be man enough to, quote, shut the hell up and listen to women. He claimed that he wanted to end toxic masculinity, acknowledging his own toxic behavior by admitting that, quote, there is a woman or two that I in some way made uncomfortable by saying something or doing something that was chauvinistic or sexist. There is 1,000,000% probability that that exists, pardon. Okay. And he said that he wanted to say that he was sorry and that he would do better. Okay. Just so you know what that's a reference from, just so you understand how hysterical female that this filing is. This has nothing to do with the lawsuit, has nothing to do with anything that Justin Baldoni has ever done. Rather, they decided to go back and find a TEDx talk that Justin Baldoni gave 5 years ago about how he was able to better his relationship with his wife. So I'm going to show you what they're quoting from. Again, published in 2017. Actually, I think I'm girl mathing it. That would be more than 5 years ago, okay? That would be 6-7 years ago, okay? Take a listen.
I've had to take a real honest look at the ways that I've unconsciously been hurting the women in my life. And it's ugly. My wife told me that I had been acting in a certain way that hurt her and not correcting it. Basically, sometimes when she would go to speak, at home or in public, I would just cut her off mid-sentence and finish her thought for her. It's awful. The worst part was that I was completely unaware when I was doing it. It was unconscious. So here I am doing my part, trying to be a feminist, amplifying the voices of women around the world, and yet at home, I am using my louder voice to silence the woman I love the most. So I had to ask myself a tough question. Am I man enough to just shut the hell up and listen?
That's what they thought. They were like, we got him. We found this thing from 7 or 8 years ago on TEDx, and we're going to quote it as if it has anything to do with this lawsuit, as if it could be evidentiary for anything that we are alleging. Have they forgotten themselves? You are alleging that he conspired behind the scenes to launch a smear campaign, okay? You're not writing a script. You're not driving me into your narrative by using obscure quotations from a TEDx talk that he gave almost a decade ago. So this is how it opens, okay? Let's go back because it doesn't finish because they're not done mining 2017. Then they reference his words. They go, Mr. Baldoni echoed this narrative while marketing the film, and that in an interview on CBS, before the 1,000,000% probability that it exists, they're actually pulling that line from a Glamour magazine article where he sat down and spoke about how he wanted to end toxic masculinity. Please peep the date on this, you guys, 2017, okay? They are pulling quotations from a 2017 article as the opening to everything. Then they attach it to now by saying he echoed this narrative while marketing the film, okay, going back to the lawsuit, and they say in an interview on CBS discussing the release of the film on August 7, 2024, he claimed, quote, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. Now, again, they're just pulling this clip out of obscurity. So what are we to assume that he's speaking about? Well, it turns out he's speaking about his character, Ryle, and they're asking him a question in the context of domestic violence, which is what the movie is about. Here is that clip, which they think is a great aha moment. We've got Justin Baldoni. Take a listen.
What do you want men to take away from this film?
I want men, first of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay?
Yeah.
Right? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. And in this particular film, I want men to go to the theater and in some way see a version of themselves. You know, you have two very different characters. Both of them and Atlas and Ryle have had past trauma, one handles it very different than the other. And my other hope is that the men who have not done the work, to heal, if they see bits of themselves in Ryle, have a chance to step back and say, you know what, I don't want to blow up my life. I don't want to hurt the person I love the most. I need to get help. I need to feel all these things that I've buried so deep down so that it doesn't explode on somebody that I love. And hopefully that can create some compassion and empathy and make the world a safer place.
So it's unbelievable. They are being so wildly manipulative and dishonest as they have been since the beginning of this entire process that they are literally mining clips on the internet, taking them out of context so that they can produce a narrative that reads like a script to us right off the bat. Okay, if you're reading that and you don't realize the context, he's talking about Ryle, he's talking about a different character in the book, and he's being asked a question about if men see themselves in Ryle, who is a person who physically abuses a woman, what do you want them to get from this movie? Okay, it doesn't get better from there, by the way, just to be clear. Let's now move on to point 6 of this, because this is where it gets interesting. Again, it's the way they use language. It's just so wildly manipulative. 6 in this lawsuit says the dangerous climate of threats, harassment, and intimidation fueled by the defendant's retaliation campaign has required Ms. Lively to alter her personal and professional life and to take steps to protect innocent bystanders rather than exposing them to further harm. So a couple of things here. I don't know how her professional and personal life was altered. It didn't look that way to me when she was posing on the red carpet with her husband and mocking the situation, but let's go with it. The reason why she's setting this up is she says, now I have to take steps to protect innocent bystanders rather than exposing them to further harm, because she's now using this to explain away why no one's joining in on her lawsuit, okay? They're setting that up right at the beginning. Essentially, no one's going to join in, but just so you know, this is to protect them. I'm going to explain to you why that's absolutely BS. It goes on and reads, thus, this amended complaint does not refer to certain witnesses by name, nor does it provide screenshots of their text messages. Importantly, however, these witnesses have given Ms. Lively permission to share the substance of their communications in this amended complaint as contained herein, and they will testify and produce responsive documents in the discovery process. Okay, let's just pause to make sure everybody understands what's happening here, because they think we are so stupid, okay? I'm not going to include them in here because I'm going to protect them. But down the line, I'm going to subpoena them and force them against their will, which means that they are not willing participants and that you don't have their support, because the reality is you can compel them to testify, okay? And you cannot, when you compel them to testify, they're going to have to hit the stand and people are going to have to be aware of exactly who they are. So what you're saying is, which is what we already had sniffed out, me, the TikTokers, the Be-Betters, the Stephanie with the deets, all of the scoops we got was that you tried to force their hand behind the scenes to get involved in your dirty little campaign. They said no, and now you're trying to, well, put it in florals. Wear your florals. I'm going to make it sound pretty. This is about protecting them until I have to freaking physically drag them to court via subpoena and show text messages. And in case you want me to also sum up why that point is absolute BS, it's because, which we'll get to later, we already showed you that her team was leaking complaints that she says that she has and trying to get them to run it. And they make it very clear who she's referring to every step of the way. It's very easy to deduce, okay, when she writes in her CRD complaint, as she did write in her CRD complaint, that a young actress who was meant to play an underage Lily Bloom, oh, she must really be protecting her, guys. Who could it be? Were there multiple young actresses who played young Lily Bloom? Why do you lie like this, Blake? Why? Why do you do this? Do you understand? You are not smarter than the internet. You didn't protect anybody. You came this close to saying their names because you wanted people to know exactly who you were talking about, okay? You then tried to leak HR complaints, which made it very clear exactly who you were talking about in each instance, Jenny Slate and Isabel Ferreira. And now you're trying to pretend here that you just want to protect them. You just want to protect them. Okay, Blake, we're with you. We're actually not with you at all. Let's jump to point 15 because the timeline here is important. One of the things that they are always doing, and this is why I loved what Brian Friedman did, and this is how I knew instantly he was telling the truth, is create a timeline. Otherwise, it's confusing. Not everyone's going to be a psycho like Candace Owens and Marcos at Be Better and go line for line and create a timeline, right? Not everyone's going to be a psycho like Candace Owens and Steph with the deets. So you can easily confuse the public by just inserting facts and not actually weighing against, allowing them to weigh it against a concrete timeline that makes that fact somehow irrelevant, okay? So 15 is an example of that. She writes, as a result of guild strikes, production of the film shut down on or about June 14th. In the midst of that shutdown, on October 13th, 2013, Ms. Lively confided in a text to a female cast member that she was, quote, dreading going back to our film. I keep getting hits of experience in really upsetting ways. The female cast member expressed empathy for Ms. Lively and confirmed similar feelings. Okay, well, so that kind of occurred after it becomes apparent to us that you had sort of hatched a plan, okay? Just a couple of weeks before you sent your no more letter. This occurred after Ryan Reynolds had already posted in July for Sandra Bullock's birthday, intimacy recorder. You guys had already hatched the plan. We've sniffed that out. So to now learn that in October, you're trying to create evidence and trails. And I even texted this person and said that I felt this way. And she was empathetic, as women are. Women lie to each other all the time on the internet, everywhere in life, no matter what. We pretend like, oh, I totally understand. It's our natural, compassionate way. But we have to admit that a lot of times when we're being compassionate, we lie, okay? When like if a woman has a bad breakout, we're always like, it doesn't look that bad. Even if it looks terrible, we say that because we want her to feel good, right? That's what we're in. It's our art form. We want somebody to feel good because they are our friend, okay? But please don't try to insert that as evidence. I said in October, after me and Ryan were already doing evil things and mocking things publicly, that I didn't feel good about going back to set. And that's evidence. Somebody was empathetic towards me. Get out of my face, okay? Now let's get down to point 17, because this just makes entirely no sense. I now think that her lawyers are just used to these sort of Me Too situations, because Me Too became a shakedown operation for a while where you didn't even need good lawyers. You just needed men who didn't want to go through the court system and the women who were saying, well, we're going to come at you with sexual harassment and ruin your lives. And I'm thinking these are the kinds of lawyers and PR people that she has in her corner, because this is not an intelligible document, okay? And point 17 makes that clear. Here's what she's alleging. She says, and this is her defense of saying, I was never trying to take over the film. This really was about sexual harassment. She puts in bold, none of the requested protections, her 17 points that she wanted, were tied in any way to Ms. Lively's creative input in the film. And they were made months before any discussions regarding the cut of the film. Oh, so you're saying you made the allegations first and then you tried to make input and change the direction of the film. Are you saying that the chicken had to come before the egg? Yes, sweetie, the chicken had to come before the egg. Obviously, it was because you made these demands and 17 points, which made no sense, and which Brian Friedman went through and thoroughly debunked these points. We've read the messages, sweetheart, okay? We know you said no to the intimacy coordinator. We know that it made no sense that you were then saying there must be an intimacy coordinator on set at all times. And so, yes, first you're going to make the sexual harassment threat, and then you're going to go, as you guys did, and they proved in the background, I want this, I want that. If I don't get what I want, I'm not going to show up. He has to be put into the basement. So why are you bolding that? Get somebody brighter. Seriously, tell me your budget. I could be hired. What is your budget? Like, what is your budget? I'll do it for you, because this was just completely nonsensical. Okay. Then number 18 is great because they bold another point, but don't bold the point that comes just before it. And we've again seen this debunked by Brian Friedman. She's basically saying that once we sent our demands to Wayfair and shut down production, remember, they emailed them in in November of 2023. And they said, she's not coming back to set unless you agree to all of this. And this is non-negotiable. So it was a hostage situation. Essentially, they were going to lose their entire investment in the film, have to find a different actress, or they had to agree to everything, which is why before that bolded line in which they say they agreed and said, we find most of these not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved, she forgets to bold the part where they say, although our perspective differs in many aspects. because they disagreed with everything she said. They pushed back initially and said, what are you talking about? We've had an intimacy coordinator. You've been in touch with the intimacy coordinator. You didn't want to meet with this intimacy coordinator. But now we're in a hostage situation, and you're asserting that this proves somehow, because you said this is not negotiable, and because they agreed to it, that they're guilty of a crime other than trying to salvage their investment. Then we get to 24, where she tries to essentially show messages, which she's done before, between the PR agents, okay? And this is how she was able to get the New York Times to doctor things to make you think that the PR agents were really up to this huge plan to smear her. So we'll look at that. And it says, in the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated, okay? So this is in early August. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed crisis PR mode, because you guys orchestrated having a bunch of people unfollow him in the style of your best friend Taylor Swift, and the public noticed and began asking questions, going, what's going on? We're noticing that Blake is not appearing alongside the lead character, Justin Baldoni, and also all these people have unfollowed him. And now you're upset that that meant that he had to pivot the PR strategy to rescue his own film that his studio was invested in. Like, again, this is such duh stuff that you're trying to present as something that's nefarious, and it simply isn't. It is another chicken had to come before the egg scenario. You had to stage the mass unfollowing of Justin Baldoni, buying off all of his friends, getting all of them to come to the Deadpool premiere, flying people to Wrexham, getting them to believe in your narrative that you were staging. You created the crisis, and now you're complaining that they had to respond to the crisis. Okay? Does that make any sense? And here's the crazy part. And this is all despite you saying in your own lawsuit that everything had been resolved, right? So who was it, Blake, that led the mass unfollow of Baldoni that created the crisis situation in the first place? Who was it, Blake, who, despite you saying you got everything you wanted, made the decision that you guys could not do any PR together anywhere? Who made that decision? Was it you? Because if it was you, okay, then it's time for you to introduce your actions to your consequences. Hello, action. Hello, consequence. Oh, it's so nice to meet each other. Yeah, the public noticed. The public noticed that things were weird and things began to backfire on you, okay? So number 27 I love, because this one was just straight up being done for the TikTokers, okay? Everybody knows that a hot button issue right now is Israel, Palestine, and that TikTokers especially are fired up about this issue, and they have landed on the pro-Palestinian side of the thing. This is why they use the watermelons. And so there was no reason for her to insert this in this amendment, other than I think her trying to appeal, okay, going after Steve Sarowitz and trying to be like, these guys support Israel, and look at this language that he uses. This is my personal belief. Like, this was written in here to appeal to TikTokers. She says, and she obviously does not cite a person. This is basically hearsay. She says that Steve Sarowitz made a threat and said, quote, I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas. There were 39,000 dead bodies, but there will be 2 dead bodies when I'm done. Attributed to no one. Just drops this in the lawsuit and wants you to know that Steve Sarowitz, she's trying to use this imagery of a very hot button issue, knowing that TikTokers don't like this issue. She's watching my show. She knows for sure where I stand on this issue. And now she's trying to paint Steve Sarowitz like Bibi Netanyahu, I think. And so that was intentionally a little nasty PR tidbit. It's completely irrelevant. What happened in Israel, what's happening in Israel is completely irrelevant to what you and your husband, and potentially with help from Taylor Swift and WME, did to Justin Baldoni, okay? You're not going to persuade us with emotion, okay? Then she gives us 29. This point is amazing because it's the literal definition of public relations, okay? And this is funny because she's saying that they then, in this situation, recognizing that there was a crisis, reached out to the agency group. We knew about this. We knew that he had done this because, like I said, Blake Lively, through her demands, created a PR crisis by separating the parties. People didn't understand why they weren't together, and they felt that she was being really pompous and arrogant. And then she goes into why they were engaged by revealing the proposal of engaging a PR company. It says a website, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, all social crisis teams on hand for anything, to engage with audiences in the right way, to start threads of theories, to discuss this is the way to be fully 100% protected. All of this will most importantly be untraceable. And then they include a line there that says, Ms. Abel described it. The plan was to engage in social media mitigation and to counter negative as well as social manipulation. So let me explain this to you. Ready? If you are work in PR crisis, that is literally your job description. They were telling this is some like huge find. Oh my God, we engaged a PR firm and they said that they were going to try to impact social opinion. Yes, that is why you engage a PR firm. Whoop-de-doo. Nothing important there. Then you move on to point number 41. And this is in October. And this is, again, a time where they're inserting something and it's not within the context of a timeline, because when you see it in a timeline, it defeats their point. This is a message that apparently they're saying even Jennifer Abel, a part of the crisis PR team, does not like Justin Baldoni. What they're not telling you is at this time, Jennifer Abel was actually working for Stephanie Jones PR. This message that I'm about to show you is from January 14th, 2024. Remember, let's go back to that PR map that we had a long time ago. Jennifer Abel was initially working for Stephanie Jones PR, and their client was Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni. And then at the end, at some point in August, she then wanted to start her own firm and she left. So at the time of this message, again, they believe the public is stupid. They don't know the timeline. She's showing you a message that is completely irrelevant to the case because they're not suing Stephanie Jones PR. And the message, as I read it, is not even controversial. What she is saying, essentially, is that Justin Baldoni is going to get eaten by Blake Lively because he doesn't want to defend himself. Here is the message that they included. It reads, later in the same text conversation, Ms. Nathan and Ms. Abel described the shift in social media. Oh, no, this is not the one that I'm looking for. I'm looking for when she says it's just a message, an email that comes from Jennifer Abel where she's writing on the 14th. I think they're pulling in the wrong one right here, but she essentially just says that, he's not going to be able to do anything. If he thinks he's just going to go away and he's not going to actually fight this thing, then it's really frustrating. And so she's basically trying to now make the public believe that that's somehow controversial, and it isn't. The other element is that they throw in these other messages that happen, and this is when they hire the crisis PR the crisis PR team. And these messages, which they're trying to paint as toxic, is just the way PR agents are speaking and monitoring the media about Justin Baldoni. And they recognize that without them having done anything, it looks like everybody hates Blake. And that's what we were just showing you on the screen. We can pull this up. It says the socials are really ramping up in his favor. She must be furious. And then Melissa Nathan says it's actually sad because it just shows you how people really want to hate on women. Like she's saying they're going after her and they haven't said it and they haven't even done anything. And then Jennifer Abel says, I know it's sad, but then don't be a C word. That tells you right there. She's English. In England, they use the C word the whole time, which essentially she's saying is this is happening because of Blake's own doing. We're not doing anything. And she goes on to write that she effed herself by doing the unfollow thing and insisting in no photos together. I agree. Okay. Her plan to be evil got foiled. She's a cartoon villain. She was like, it's going to be so great. We're going to put him in the basement. We're going to isolate him. We're going to make him feel alone. And she never considered that there would be a social consequence for her to bear because of that. And that's what happened. And so the crisis PR team never had to implement any plan because Blake being evil backfired. That is the story. A narcissist targeted someone who she felt was weak, and it backfired on her. And they go on again to show you these last couple of points here in this suit, or in this amendment rather, is they even are telling us not to believe our own eyes, because I'm reading what the PR people are saying and then she mischaracterizes it. And this gets into the HR complaints. Okay. Now I told you that someone in Blake's team clearly were circulating those complaints that we showed you on the show yesterday, way back in August when the premiere was happening. And the PR crisis team were able to kill it because the reason they killed these stories was because they weren't real. Okay. They're not dated. They won't give any information. And Sony came out and gave a statement to Variety at that time that said there were no HR complaints. Similarly, Wayfarer said there were no HR complaints. So they got the story killed on the basis that whatever was being circulated was not real. It was not authentic. They try to spin this in the amendment, try to spin them saying we got this killed as a huge aha. And here's the language that they use. Less than 1 week later, they bragged about how they had shut down stories regarding HR complaints on set. Miss Nathan remarked that this went so well, it was genius, so okay, we have 4 majors standing down on the HR complaint. Yeah, it wasn't real. That's her job, is to get things debunked when they are not true. And so for them to then try to spin it to us like something was wrong here is completely ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous. Okay, now before we get into Isabel Ferrer, because I really want to point something out here that I find to be extremely creepy about her relationship with her and how I think she purposefully put her in her, kind of in her web, so to speak. I want to just show you like really illustrate the 4 points or 5 points of major hypocrisy in this lawsuit, which leads me to believe that what they're really doing here is there is no strategy. They're responding to the public and they're not even thinking about how the points that they made earlier are now conflicting with points that they have made now. There's nothing but hypocrisy. And I think the biggest addition to this that really demonstrated that nothing makes sense was point 84. It's just astonishing. So people were made aware by Brian Friedman that actually Blake Lively was offered to meet with the intimacy coordinator, despite the entire narrative being about the intimacy coordinator. There was no intimacy coordinator. They demanded intimacy coordinator. We then saw a text message and where Justin messages her in April and is like, I'm meeting with the intimacy coordinator if you want to meet. And she's like, nah, I'm all good. See, she just says, I feel good. I can meet her when we start, presumably when we start filming. And she says, thank you though. So he offered her before they started filming, right before they started principal photography, to meet with the intimacy coordinator, and she said no, which makes everything that Ryan was saying, where's intimacy coordinator, blah, blah, it just doesn't make any sense. So they felt they had to respond to the public learning about that. And they wrote this in their amendment, point 84. They wrote, Ms. Lively complained about inappropriate behavior as early as May 2023, which occurred without an intimacy coordinator present and which ultimately led to Wayfarer and Sony agreeing with Ms. Lively that the consistent presence of an intimacy coordinator was not only reasonable but essential. Contrary to the defendant's assertions elsewhere, Ms. Lively did not refuse to meet with the film's intimacy coordinator. She said, I'm all good. I think that's a refusal, right? She said she did not need to meet with her before production started because there were no intimate scenes in the immediate future, so they could talk once production began. Ms. Lively did have a call with the intimacy coordinator during preparations. These conversations happened close in time to the filming of the relevant scenes. So that lets us know that not only did she refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator, but now she's saying it's because, well, there were no scenes upcoming that I needed her for, but also that she had a direct line of communication with the intimacy coordinator. She is saying that she had a phone call with her. She had her number. So if at any point of her claiming that she felt uncomfortable around Justin Baldoni, if she felt that after she filmed one scene, the dance scene, where they're talking to each other and she lies and claims that he was out of character, but forgot to mention that she was speaking to him out of character, why didn't she just ask the intimacy coordinator from that day forward to be with her every step of the way? She didn't do that. Why is it that after that scene, which is supposed to be the huge scene that made her uncomfortable, did she invite him into her trailer while she was breastfeeding? None of this makes any sense. To now acknowledge that you had communication with the intimacy coordinator actually proves their point, that your list of 17 demands that you sent in November to put a complete stop to principal photography was always a nonsense. You were always making things up that never were an issue. You had access to an intimacy coordinator, which is exactly what Justin Baldoni's team is alleging. They never deprived you of an intimacy coordinator. So all of Ryan Reynolds' jokes in Deadpool, his jokes to Sandra Bullock, and everywhere else on the internet was really something that you guys concocted. That's what the public is seeing. Another thing I want to point out is that she keeps running into conflict when she says that Justin Baldoni tried to change the script. That's a major point here, that they had a pre-agreed upon script that she had signed on to and that he deviated away from it And then that amounted to gratuitous sexual changes, okay? To be clear, Justin Baldoni disputes that. He's like, no, these were in here. And also, she actually kissed me a few times when we were not required to be intimate, which made me think that riffing and trying to figure out our chemistry was okay. But she makes the argument that him doing that, him doing anything off of the pre-agreed upon script is wrong. While at the same time, she argues, as we just saw, that she made plenty of changes to the script. And that was fine. What are the rules here, Blake? You can't argue it both ways. So Justin can't make any changes. After you sign out and say, this is the script, he has no right to make one change. But you can get your dragons on board and say, actually, I changed the entire scene. Read it and like it, or you're going to get burned. That's what she believes. She believes rules for thee and not for me. And that's what this lawsuit demonstrates. She over and over acknowledges, I changed the scenes. I wrote all these lines, not because I was trying to take over the movie, but because I'm a creative genius. I'm just so talented and I was trying to help. Her text messages show that. She's constantly changing scenes, but she is accusing him of deviating away from pre-agreed upon scenes. It is a nonsense, okay? And if you truly believe, Blake, that such behavior in that setting amounts to harassment, then you're going to have to explain your husband. You're going to have to explain why you are not out there defending the many victims that your husband must have as the king of riff. Everybody knows Deadpool is riffing all the time. Would you, Blake Lively, support lawsuits against your husband from actors like TJ Miller? Remember, TJ Miller was the guy who felt that Ryan was using riff on Deadpool to actually vent anger at him, to try to destroy him as a human being and to make him feel small. He said he would never work with Ryan Reynolds ever again. After that interview, him and Ryan Reynolds, to be clear, patched up their relationship, but he basically said he uses Deadpool to harass people, okay? So would Blake Lively be open to a suit of harassment? Because riffing is just so wrong. It's never been seen before. No one's ever seen that before in theater. This is the first time it's ever happened. So anyways, she's completely out of line, and I just don't see how these amendments show us anything other than the fact that she has anything, that she has absolutely nothing, which is why it's super compelling getting to Isabel Ferreira that she keeps saying in the media and keeps seeding the public with this idea that the cast supports her, okay? That there are two other people who she discussed his inappropriate behavior with. Like I said, that's just going to be girl chat, girls chatting and supporting each other. But she also says that they're going to have to compel those people to testify, because that's what it means when you say these witnesses have given her permission to share the substance and they will testify and produce responsive documents in the discovery process. It means that they will do it under duress, okay? Here is my opinion. Mark my words, take it to the bank. This is what's going to happen. She is going to ruin the life and the career of Isabella Ferrer. That's what I think. Isabella Ferrer is going down. Okay, Isabella Ferrer thought that Blake Lively was her friend. She thought that Blake Lively was doing stuff because she wanted to be her big sister. She was styling her, took her to the Deadpool premiere. We talked about this strategy of just routine love bombing that her and Ryan Reynolds engage in, okay? And I hadn't considered, because I was like, what did she give to Isabella Ferreira? We found with Brandon Sklenar, it's likely that they hooked him up with WME, a contract there. With Liz Plank, she gave her advice on bromances in an obscure bit as a part of the Wrexham documentary. And I was like, what did she do with Isabella Ferreira? How did she love bomb her to the point that she's now using her? And Isabella Ferreira, let me tell you, you better lawyer up quickly, because you got, okay? She didn't love you like a little sister. She was going after a movie. And then I found this clip circulating on the internet of Isabella Ferreira at the London premiere of It Ends With Us being asked about her relationship with Blake Lively. Take a listen.
What was it like working with Blake? Has she given you any kind of advice?
I love her. She's the best. She's given me so much advice. She has been so generous to me. She has given me clothes. She's fed me. She's let me sleep over. I mean, she's just been like a big sister that I never had. I'm an only child, so I'm like, this is so nice.
Love bomb, okay? Love bomb. Now, one of the things that I try to make very clear to you guys is that age matters, right? And so some things that you might look back on, or like at the time of the moment, you think this is not weird. I guess let me give you a good example of that. You know, like when you're in high school, for those of us who drank underage and shouldn't have when you were in high school, and like there's the one person's house that you can go to, and the mom is like providing cocktails, like Mean Girls, you know what I mean? That the mom that will actually go out and get drinks. And when you're young, you're like, this is so cool. Like, she's such a cool mom. And then you get older and you're like, that's actually really effing weird. And like, where is that woman that was giving underage children alcohol? Because I like to report her now. That's like where I am now, where I realize what like it completely inappropriate and crazy for any parent to do that. This is the same situation where Isabella Ferrer is 23, 24 years old. She might be 24 now, was 23 at the time of filming. And she's looking at this and she's going, this is so cool. Like she's inviting me over for sleepovers. Why is Blake Lively inviting Isabella Ferrer over for sleepovers? Blake Lively is 37 years old with 4 kids. Not only 4 kids, she had just given birth to her 4th kid. She was still breastfeeding, breast pumping at this time. Why are you inviting, okay, a colleague, a work colleague over? If you want to see, you want to grab dinner, normal, totally cool. You want to hang out after work, long day of filming, whatever it is. Why are you inviting her to your house for a sleepover? That is not appropriate for a 37-year-old adult woman to be doing with a 23-year-old. There are various extenuating circumstances where it might make sense. Oh, it was a blizzard. You're at my house. You can't get a taxi. Totally fine. We've got a guest bedroom. Totally fine. But this sounds like a girly sleepover. This sounds like what I used to do with my friends that were the same age. When we'd go out, we'd have a good night, you know, hanging out and be like, oh, we're just going to all sleep over. We're gonna just have a big old sleepover and you gossip. That's the purpose of sleepovers, okay? You gossip, you trade stories, you get close to one another, and all that's fine. If Isabella Ferreira was doing this with another 23-year-old, I wouldn't have an issue with this. But it's not another 23-year-old, you guys. It's a 37-year-old woman inviting a 23-year-old colleague over for a sleepover. It's weird. Do not let anybody tell you any difference. That is weird. That's not what 37-year-old women do. I don't have sleepovers. At 30, I'm 35 and I don't have sleepovers. I'm like out of the sleepover gang. You know, it's like the game of sleepovers doesn't work anymore. You know why? Because I'm like an adult and I can get home. Like there's no situation where I can't get home to my husband. And also it would just be weird for me to be like, hey, can my 23-year-old friends come over for sleepover? My husband would be like, what are you talking about? We got like kids get up at 5:30 a.m. What are you saying? Again, there are some circumstances, okay, where it could make sense, extenuating circumstances, but that doesn't sound like that. She's giving me her clothes. Why do I feel like this is a teenage sleepover? She's giving me her clothes and we're baking together. And also we're having sleepovers. Weird, Isabella, okay? You might not realize it right now, but this is weird. And by you saying like she's like a sister, she wanted you to feel that, okay? Blake Lively is a sick individual. I am telling you, you were targeted. You don't realize you were targeted, but you were. And because they knew that they needed to have somebody that they could wrap into their spell. She also targeted Isabella Ferreira by telling her that Taylor Swift handpicked her. Now imagine you're 23 years old. What is Taylor Swift to you? Oh my gosh, icon, top of the world. You're trying to get tickets to her sold out shows to Eras. And now you're in the house of a Taylor Swift's best friend and she's telling you during a sleepover that Taylor Swift handpicked you. Like you're with us now. You're with our girl squad. Do you want to wear my clothes? Ugh. Like just the ick that I feel knowing that as a 35-year-old woman and realizing that Isabella was just young and impressionable. And I swear the age where your brain fully develops, I think it's 26, 27. Like literally Isabella's brain is not fully developed yet, according to science, okay? And yet Blake Lively swooped in there and just love bombed her. And she had no idea. She had no idea that she was being manipulated, just like I believe Brandon Sklenar had no idea he was being manipulated. Liz Plank, I don't know, had no idea she was being manipulated. They all were just like, what an amazing couple. There's even a clip of Brandon Sklenar saying, I don't know what I did to deserve them just doing so much amazing stuff. You're dealing with grade A psychopaths. That's what you did, okay? It was about Justin Baldoni, and she knew, you know, Ryan Reynolds and her were like, we need to have someone else on set saying something happened. And they chose Isabella because she would have been the most vulnerable to Taylor Swift sprinkles, cupcakes being baked at midnight. Let's stay up late. Let's like do each other's nails. Let's just do each other's nails. Oh my God, I feel so uncomfortable. Can I open up to you about something? That's what girls do. They tell secrets on sleepovers. Can I tell you something? He made me feel not good. Justin Baldoni didn't make me feel good. I think he looked at my butt. Have you ever felt that way? Said a 37-year-old woman with 4 kids upstairs. And she's like, yeah, just trying to like feel an attachment because she's younger. Yeah, no, I felt weird during that orgasm scene, to be honest, because we already know this, by the way, because Blake's team doesn't care about her being young or care about the fact that she has her entire career ahead of her. They're trying to now use her to try to justify their lawsuit. And I believe that this has been a wicked plan that she hatched long ago. And Isabella Ferrer is actually a victim of just a nefarious, nasty woman named Blake Lively. Those are my thoughts. Anyways, you guys, want to also let you know that Taylor Swift's team is letting the world know that they are not friends anymore. They are not talking. Okay, so sorry, Isabella Farah, if you thought you were going to get connection to Taylor Swift. Her team's hitting hard and saying Taylor Swift no longer speaking to Blake Lively after Justin Baldoni's scandal shook up their decades-long friendship. Once again, I believe Taylor Swift has more to do with this, but she is never going to compromise her career and her brand. She will drop you like a hot potato, and that has now been done officially. She also gave this to Page Six. And they're also at the same time, because her marketing team is excellent, they're pushing hard on like, she's just with Travis and they're in their own little world and she's gone again and she's not being photographed. And she's just, they bought a puppy. I'm not kidding. Her marketing team even let people know that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce they're living happily ever after. They got a puppy. They want nothing to do with Blake Lively, and then she never knew she was being called a dragon for Blake Lively. None of that's true. Taylor Swift has never done anything wrong. She's always been a perfect victim. And I just wanted to remind you that no matter what we learn, don't for a single second believe that Taylor Swift could have done something wrong. Not in her whole life. Everyone's always using her. All right, guys, I do want to throw it to our sponsor, Preborn. Planned Parenthood is spending millions to target vulnerable women, convincing them that the abortion pill is a quick, easy solution. But the reality is that many women feel devastation after that. They feel pain, regret. There's a reality that sets in that you did, in fact, end a life. And that's why Preborn is stepping in through innovative technology. They are reaching abortion-determined women before they even take the pill, before it's too late. In fact, to date, Preborn's network of clinics has rescued over 300,000 lives, and they have saved over 90,000 women. And they've seen 90,000 women, come to Christ. And it does not stop there. Preborn's network of clinics are with these moms every step of the way, offering counseling, maternity supplies, and support that they need to choose life. But they cannot do it without our support. Just $28 provides an ultrasound to a woman that's in crisis. That is it. $28 to help her see her baby and choose life instead. So to donate, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. Also reminding you of the Wellness Company, because there could be another global health crisis and it could be another pandemic. And it is no coincidence that Dr. Anthony Fauci's pardon started on January 1st, 2014. This marks a pivotal moment in history, the year that Obama administration and the four-letter agencies took control of Ukraine. Shortly after, Fauci spearheaded controversial gain-of-function research on bat and coronaviruses in biolabs in Ukraine. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, new findings point to Pfizer's bribe payment to the FDA to get their vaccine approved for mass use. This coordinated global development was not just about public health. It was about power, control, profit. And coincidentally, the media is sounding the alarm about a new strain of bird flu, one that could spread rapidly, wiping out populations and overwhelming healthcare systems. This is why you need the Wellness Company's Contagion Emergency Kit, engineered by Dr. Peter McCullough and his medical board. Includes 5 life-saving medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Tamiflu, and nebulizer, designed to protect you from the next global threat. Ordering is simple. You just fill out a digital intake form and your kit arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. So do not wait for the next outbreak to catch you off guard. Stay ready for the unexpected. Right now, my listeners will save $48 off their order plus free shipping by heading to twc.health/Candace, and you use code Candace at checkout. Take action today for a healthier tomorrow at twc.health/Candace, and with promo code Candace today. The kits are only available to U.S. residents, to be clear. All right, guys, a lot of you guys are asking me about an update on Becoming Brigitte. I know we were going to do it today, and then obviously her amendment came in at midnight. That's why I had to switch gears. Don't worry, it's coming. Also, Becoming Brigitte is just taking off everywhere. It's just been incredible. It's really just been an incredible story here of how I wanted to bring this to the public, and the media attacked me for it. They called me crazy, said that I was having postpartum psychosis, which was absolutely hilarious, and they did so much to sort of protect this, and now it's out, and people are trying to acquire it. We're in talks with one person in particular that wants to work with us on this series. But the point is I'm just grateful to all of you guys for making it as successful as it has been. And we have endured some serious DDoS attacks, by the way. For those of you that were having trouble watching that episode with Xavier Poussard, it was insane. It was just absolutely insane. We had 180.3 million requests to our website. That's what a DDoS attack is. They try to overwhelm your website with everyone trying to get on at once. And they got up to 180 million requests that were coming in, which is insane. insane in just 1.6 million requests in just over a minute. That is how fast they were coming in. And thus far, the website has received 638 million requests, which is just traffic, again, that's meant to overwhelm your servers. But we got through it and wanted you guys to know that we will be bringing back the Becoming Brigitte series, because I know there's people have questions. People are asking, is Brigitte Macron Emmanuel Macron's mother? We're going to get into all of these theories. We're going to tie together these loose ends, really. And I'm going to tell you what my thought process is. You know, we wanted to spend those first 7 episodes just giving you guys the facts, just the absolute facts, that you could draw your own conclusions in the way that you have, so you could begin your own research to recognize that this story was never a conspiracy. A sitting president of a country does not send journalist in Tennessee a letter because she's lying. They send a letter because they don't want this to happen. They don't want the entire world to be aware of what's happening. And now the entire world is, and we haven't yet heard from Emmanuel Macron's team. I do, like I say over and over, I hope he sues. I'll crowdfund a lawsuit. I don't care. We'll raise money around the world so I can go to bat and get answers to basic questions about are they related? Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron. Again, tomorrow we will put together all of those loose ends for you. So I'm sorry that we will be a day late, but there's so much more to come. And as I said yesterday, we are going to be very soon announcing our next investigative series, and you guys are going to go crazy. I want to see if you guys have any guesses as to what that might be, what I will be investigating. And it's going to be one of these things that you're going to go, Candace, you're crazy. There's no way. There's no way. And then by like the 3rd episode, your mind's going to be blown, and then you're going to go, I can never trust the mainstream media ever again. So I can't wait to see what some of your guesses are. Okay, let's start reading some of your comments here. Now that we've done this deep dive on Blake Lively, Diana writes, disgusting thing is to use JB's admission of his past as evidence. Few men recognize and open up, and this is just saying to men and any person really that if you did bad things, you can't change. Yeah, using the TEDx talk was a really gross maneuver, and I want to say they are leaning into the worst stereotypes of what it means to be a woman. Like the idea of women just getting around and being manipulative and not telling the truth and trying to like just take a guy down. That stereotype is out there because of what they are doing, and we see it in their lawsuit. It's just undeniable. There's no reason to include this TEDx talk out of context to make people think that Justin Baldoni had made some confessions that went against anything, or using a clip of him discussing his character Ryle and pretending that this came out of Justin's mouth about himself. It's nasty business, and it relies on the public being stupid, and the public is just not stupid. Kay writes, hi, Candace. Thank you for the excellent coverage on the Lively Baldoni case, and I'm also fascinated with the Brigitte story. With love from your newest fan, who is a liberal. It's okay. It's okay. Welcome all. I'm happy that we're all kind of getting over the hump of believing the mainstream media stereotypes. So it's fitting. It's like if you can believe that they lied about Justin Baldoni, you can probably believe or very quickly come to the conclusion that they may have lied about a few other people. Definitely me. What they said about me being literally Hitler, it's not true. I am not literally Adolf Hitler. It's not right at all. Lalique writes, the look of admiration shows her my cousin Baldoni, while playing clips of him being his authentic self is adorable. One thing we know for sure is Lively caught feelings and Reynolds caught Lively. I totally agree with you. I hope one day me and Justin Baldoni sit down. Like I said, when this all comes to a conclusion, and I think it will actually soon, I don't think this is actually going to go to trial. All of us, everybody in the chat, we're buying kombucha and we're going to drink it together, and we're going to cheers and we're going to celebrate. And it'll be the first time that I ever drink kombucha. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Kombucha. It's probably delicious, to be honest. I don't even know what it is. And I don't even know if Justin likes it, but this has just become the stereotype that we are creating of my cousin, who needs to be defended. And I'm glad to see the world kind of rising up and saying, no more to bullies in Hollywood. Before I read these last couple of comments, I do also want to thank American Financing. I know that there are so many people that are working hard to support their families, but it may seem as though you're taking a step back every month instead of moving forward, because bills are higher than they've ever been. It's higher than what you bring in every month. You have to swipe that credit card to cover the difference, and the debt keeps adding up. But if you own a home, my friends at American Financing can help you break free from that cycle. American Financing is saving people just like you an average of $800 a month. Think about what you could do with an extra $800 every month and not having to worry about those minimum monthly payments. And even better, it costs nothing to find out how much you could be saving. All it takes is a very quick call to American Financing. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call American Financing today and start your journey towards being credit card debt free. Just call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, last couple of comments. Plebe writes, thank you for being so honest. Will your new book be an audiobook? Yes, I always do 2 things, write my own books and I do my own audiobooks. And it's rare, by the way, that people write their own books. Everyone just like uses a ghostwriter. I can't. I have a podcast every day. You know my voice. You know what words I use, and you would be able to instantly sniff that out. You'd be like, this isn't Candace. It feels weird. I don't feel connected. I wrote this book and I am adding a little amendment about Blake Lively in a chapter that I had already written about Taylor Swift's brand of feminism. And again, I wrote this book years ago, and it just worked out that all of this happened right when we were planning to announce it on February 14th, that somehow Taylor Swift is in the news because of Blake Lively. So I will add a little, really an addendum, but I'm going to call it an amendment because it just feels more fitting. But yes, you guys can go buy this book. You'll get it cheaper now if you buy it, available for pre-sale at CandaceOwens.com. That's where all my stuff is. I'm very excited about this book. It feels like the time is right for us to talk about the difference between feminism and a brand of feminism, which just seeks to empower women by taking down men. And we have to stop doing that. And we have to remember that we birth men. They're our brothers. They are our husbands. We're not like separate from them. And so if we foster a world where people like Justin Baldoni can be taken down, we're going to be talking about our cousins, our brothers, our husbands. And it's just not a world that we want to live in. Especially me. I have 3 sons. Kara writes, B and R have a God complex, Blake and Ryan. The saddest thing here is the message of the movie, which could actually help other women in toxic relationships open their eyes, is overshadowed by their ego. Well, if you look at the glass half full, I would say that now we are looking at toxic femininity, right? At least we're able to have a long discussion now about almost the opposite of that, because this is a form of violence, in my opinion. What they're doing, what they have done is a form of true violence. And it's just, people don't often think about women as the ones who could possibly execute that. And I would say that by that metric, the book has been a tremendous success. It's not the success it was hoping for, but it certainly is the success that they got. Billy writes, I love you, Candace. Justin Baldoni is literally a puppy. Yes, he is literally a puppy everywhere, and clearly has been doing those sorts of speeches for a very long time. This person writes, he should also sue for how ugly those outfits were. To be honest, I did not watch the movie, but I can say that the outfits that I have seen in the movie, just from social media and stuff, are indeed objectively ugly. John writes, yesterday's cliffhangers about your next story. Phew, the world is on edge. Who is it about? Me, him, they, them, us, president. No one wants to be on your bad side or investigator side. Yes, well, I will say that it will be another referendum on the media, and I can't say too much. I desperately want to. I don't like keeping secrets. And when I tell you, you're going to be like, how did you keep this a secret for so long, Candace? And I'm just going to be like, because you never asked me. You guys never asked me. That's how I kept it a secret for so long. Jackie writes, never stop. You're my inspiration and have the nerves of steel that I wish I had. Thank you so much, Jackie. Reminding you guys, if you want to support the show, you can buy an Everything is Fake in 90s Gay Standis Cup. I want to know who has collected all of them thus far, by the way, because we're real close to 4 million now. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Help us race to 4 million. I think we're at 3.92, but who's counting? I am. And I guess we can leave the Blake Lively lawsuit for a little bit. It feels sad. No one's drafting me. No one has subpoenaed me. Nothing. It's crazy. And I don't want to say goodbye to the Blake Lively lawsuit, but this was kind of the big weight. What was her amendment going to be about? And it's a nothing burger. So we'll see. Anyways, tomorrow will be Becoming Brigitte. And then on Friday, I think we will probably announce the next big series. And you guys are going to go crazy. You're going to go crazy. I'm like, forget it. Shut down. We're going to break the internet. We're going to shut down the internet with the announcement of the next investigation. Anyways, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.